Welcome to the Five Phenomenon Podcast. I am your host, Shane Hayes, and coming up on this week's episode, we are going to discuss the most illuminating of topics there are for Christmas time, the Is Die Hard a Christmas movie debate.
Yippee-ki-yay, man.
Yeah, with me today is Ted Haycraft. Hey, how's it going, Ted?
I'm here and ready to see what you guys come up with on this discussion.
Yes, I mentioned this early on the episode. This episode is for the bots.
On today's episode, writer-director Tyler Savage, his most recent movie, Stalker, is currently available on Hulu.
First off, Ted, what did you watch this week?
Well, not just this week. In the last couple of weeks, I finally got caught up. I felt like I was running behind. Now I feel like I had the game released in Evansville, Indiana, as what's in the theaters. But I saw She Said.
You mentioned this on last episode.
Did I? She Said, Ticket to Heaven, Till.
Ticket to Paradise, Till. I don't know if you mentioned Till.
And Bones and All. And
I just saw Bones and All
She
this
Said.
week.
So yeah, big string of films.
But did you see She Said?
I liked it, and it was just a good, solid run of good, solid films that I think up next is I haven't caught up to the menu yet. That's the next.
I have seen the menu, yeah.
But we both saw something last.
We watched Avatar: The Way of the Water last night.
Yes, and I'm still thinking about it. It's still washing over me. Yes.
I am not thinking about that. Avatar
really?
was amazing. I loved it.
Okay. Well, that's no. You're.
I hope we are going to do an episode on the first film soon, but I am not the. I think the first film is great in IMAX 3D. It is just something amazing, and we did see it in IMAX 3D.
Yes,
I should mention that. And so I'm curious how this movie plays, but I am a big James Cameron fan, and one of the reasons I am not as enthusiastic about the first one is there's a lot to love about it, but there are things that are fine, as opposed to other Cameron movies where each movie feels like one of the greatest action filmmakers merging good story. And
I guess we'll have to see how this plays out at the box office. I feel like there could possibly be a parallel between the two Top Gun films and the two Avalons.
Avatar. You keep calling it Avalon. It's not. Barry Levinson had nothing to do with this.
I don't know why. It just made me remember that Barry Levinson movie.
Yeah.
But no, Avatar and Top Gun. Because
just sequels that are significant. Well, because Cameron's
big gaps and significantly a huge love for the second one.
I think Cameron's done too many good sequels for this to be an anomaly. I mean, he's got. Well, I've never seen Piranha 2, but he did. But
okay.
he has done Aliens and Terminator 2, both of which are great sequels.
Yeah. So it's gonna be interesting to see how it plays out, and I was trying to read some reviews on that once I saw it, and of course I'm still thinking there's a lot of echoes of a lot of other different movies that you love, and a lot of Dances with Wolves again.
Yeah, you mentioned Dances with Wolves
specifically. Yeah, one scene.
Yeah, fair enough. And I think you were talking more about archetypes of story archetypes,
right.
Mainly. That is one of the things that really hit me. There's an anthropology term called weird, where the basic idea is whenever you're studying behavioral sciences, there's a tendency to only fixate on what the type of people called weird people, which is Western, educated, industrialized, rich, and democratic. So you can't understand a lot of behavioral things when, say, you go to, say, an Aboriginal society or a society that's completely cut off from the rest of the world.
What's the recent? What's the Banshees of Inisherin? There you go. Yeah.
No, I mean like not connected to anything. Like their own language, still like not connected to the modern technology or something. In America, we tend to go to our American Indian stories for this, but I just feel like Cameron has a way. I think he has a way of talking about certain human behaviors that doesn't immediately invoke like him trying to appropriate a culture because he's created something. And the thing is, also a lot of the critiques you're going to get around this are a lot of cheap people saying like it's dumb and this whole thing's like kind of stony stupid, you know. And like I think that's a hoity-toity way of looking at James Cameron stuff.
No, I don't know. Yeah, I'm not. I don't have. I don't have that approach to it. But I do.
I've already heard it. Is what my point. And I'm not saying in like action movies are inherently dumb type of way of looking at it. I'm saying like people just think James Cameron's sincerity is dumb, and it pisses me off.
And we don't necessarily contribute to the box office of movies that we love, but the movies that do well at the box office are a lot of just general people that want to be entertained. And this film is so entertaining. But if you're well versed in cinema history and seen a lot of films and then you can recall them, you're saying, oh, this is from this film and this is from this film. And it seems like there's some really, I mean, Cameron doesn't have a problem with it, I guess.
To me, James Cameron is really good at coming up with crackerjacked action stories that keep escalating. He's mastered constantly stakes raising and escalation, but he makes personal films that in his own indirect way. And the thing that I found interesting about this is this guy's like very similar into the Michael Mann method of like he can make action movies that are about a romantic person at the heart of the movie. And like Titanic's a very romantic movie, Terminator's a very romantic movie, The Abyss is a very romantic movie about a marriage.
Well, the romance is always very important, yes.
He's switching because he's now a parent. And so he writes the teenage stories. There's a little bit of romance in there, but most of this is coming from the vantage, I've heard him say this in interviews already about this, of the asshole dad who has to be in charge of everything.
Right.
And the family dynamic. There I won't deny that I felt like there's some slight missteps here and there, but for the most part I was just on the basic level, this movie has such a great third act, and I like just like a Cameron third act where it's just master action filmmaker just like builds and builds and builds. I felt like that was missing from Avatar, the first Avatar.
And I have to admit that there was a couple of scenes that I kind of jerked at, and kind of like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Don't bet against James Cameron is the theme I've also heard. The other interesting stuff I saw this week, real quickly. You and I are both listening to the Quentin Tarantino Roger Avery Cinema Archives podcast. I finally watched The Private Life of Sherlock Holmes. That was as good as they said on that episode.
Oh, yeah, it's wonderful. It's just we could do a whole episode on
that.
Almost.
Everyone craps on Wilder and Hitchcock. It seems like I always was under the impression that they both lose their sway around the same time, and this does not seem to be the same case. Like, I mean, I saw the Ciavante too. The other one, have you seen? It was at Sundance this year. Resurrection with Rebecca Hall.
No, I remember because of Rebecca Hall's involvement. The one sheets in the hallway of the theater. I thought I probably should go see this.
I saw,
and then I just let it go by. I missed it, unfortunately.
I saw it top a few lists of horror best movies this year. It's Rebecca Hall. Really, the thing I can say about her. I mean, I've loved the movie. I thought there's like a showstopper monologue in the middle of it, but she's got good taste in her content.
Well, exactly. I figured that if she chose the script, there must have been a reason.
She picks interesting roles that are about something too. Like, I give her credit for that. I don't know how many more episodes we're going to have for the rest of this month, but lately I've been having this feeling that end of November, December are the months where I have to like read a bunch of top 10 lists and try to catch up to like make my own
so frustrating
top 10 list, and then I can't watch anything else that's not from this year, and sometimes it does get chore like a little, but I've kind of given up on that because it's just you're a smarter, wiser man than I.
You gotta have all the streaming services, you gotta have certain Blu-rays, or what we get here in Evansville is can be very slim sometimes.
And you do have rewards. You do have the ones you miss. You're like, why did I miss that? But they do feel like they're coming further in between.
And before we forget, I need to do a shout out. I this last week we had a little sort of a Comic-Con, RaptorCon in Evansville. I got to hang out all weekend with Bill Morrison. That was a real treat. He is the guy in charge of the Simpsons comics, Bongo Comics, when they started up.
Okay.
And I got to pick his brain all weekend. We talked movies, we talked pop culture, and he did Disney posters for an ad agency before he did Simpsons work. And that's where he met Matt Groening early on.
So this would have been 80s?
Yeah, right before the Simpsons started up. And then Matt called him in.
But like Little Mermaid?
Yeah, Little Mermaid, exactly. Yeah, okay. He worked on the Little Mermaid. There's a hidden Batman nod in the cape, in the fin of the what's her name?
Ariel.
My friend Jim Alexander actually asked him about that, and he pointed it out to us. Yeah, he did the Prince and the Pauper Mickey Mouse poster.
Yeah,
and he's very proud of that one because to be able to get a chance to do Mickey Mouse it was just an honor for him to get to do that.
Rescuers would have been around this time too.
Yeah, and he did and before that for the Disney, he did the house with that hand, the connected hand hitting the doorbell, the house. Horror film, yeah, that's quite a while ago, and it was just a blast talking to him, and that was a real highlight just to be with someone like that. So that was fun.
Well, cool, and Merry Christmas to everyone listening. Let's get on to our Die Hard conversation.
Jingle bells.
Check, I got my Christmas Story leg lamp.
Very, very apropos. What was your first reaction to me proposing this topic?
It's a good topic. I mean, it's like a classic. It's a classic debate, and I also remember that Bruce Willis has an opinion about this.
Yeah, which you sent me through Instagram. Ted, what did you think when I presented this topic?
No reaction at all. I'm older. I'm an old fart. I'm not really. This is not in my playground, I guess.
I should do a confessional. I think the main reason I wanted to do this topic is because this is a loaded topic that is also immensely a stupid question. That it's a very Twitter-based question. It's a very argument for argument's sake question. I feel like the main proponent of this argument are bots on Twitter arguing with each other. There's a great article from just last year, apparently, is when this debate hit its kind of height, at least according to Google traffic. And there's an Atlantic article called "Is Redacted a Christmas Movie" by Caitlin Tiffany that goes over kind of the whole history of this debate. But also the article acknowledges that it's being itself clickbait because the debate is stupid and arbitrary, because it all comes down to what is your definition of a Christmas movie. And
Nerdist did it as well, and it was sort of the same, and it was sort of a similar thing where I feel like it is an argument for argument's sake, so there is almost something cyclical about this where it's not like we're going to arrive at some conclusion, but there's different arguments to be made here for sure.
Ted? You still are looking at me like, why are we doing
No.
this?
No. I'm just, you guys are, I'm going to soak it all in and kind of poking my head in and out with color commentary. Because I just, the whole, like I said, I'm curious if you found out when and how they are.
This debate started in according to the Atlantic article. This debate started in 2007 when Michael Ager was writing for the Slate Guide to Overlook Christmas Movie, and he wrote an entry called "Now I Have a Machine Gun, Ho Ho Ho," which I have a little problem with that headline because my favorite part of the way that line is delivered is the is not in there. I always had "Now I have machine gun, ho ho ho."
That might actually weirdly be the most definitively Christmas moment in the whole thing, because I rewatched it the other night and it had been a minute, and I was with someone who I hadn't seen it since she was a kid, and really, to me, the thing that always made it a Christmas movie is the divorce reconciliation plotline.
Exactly.
That's the thing that makes it feel like a Christmas movie. But when you watch it, it's really just the soundtrack and some holiday decorations. Other than that, the machine gun ho 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 is the only beat that actually has a Christmas costume themed thing in it. The rest of it's pretty thin.
And the whole movie taking place on Christmas Eve. But I do go back to my first few viewings of it. I do remember the thing I was really into was, especially when you get to the end where the kids are on TV and crying for their mom. It's like you want the family to be reunited. And the whole thing about this is the divorce or the impending divorce. And reconciliations in bad marriages come on Christmas. Christmas is a time when they look. That's whenever okay. Let's start again. Either one of you, based on when I was looking at this, did you guys see a good argument for why it isn't a Christmas movie?
Why is it a Christmas?
It is not. It is not a Christmas movie because the arguments tend to be it's an action movie where Christmas is not really essential to the plot.
I came and went and just thought it was a nice changing shift action film. I think it changed it was an impactful.
We're definitely going to get to that.
But that I just have to have a Christmas background. Never even thought of it, I would lump it into a Christmas category. Never, ever, till this argument started going. Never.
See, that's good because I think we'll make good conversation companions because I always lump things into a Christmas category, probably when they don't even belong in there.
Well, I got an interesting list to give you to see if you agree or not.
Yeah, I'll turn anything into a Christmas movie if there's some element. But my number one argument against it being a Christmas movie is that the logic of all of these people having an office party on Christmas Eve is so thin and illogical to me.
How so?
That this could have it honestly feels like it could have been a New Year's party or something like that. Much more.
Because our building's deserted Christmas Eve. I mean, unless the person keeping the TV station on the air. I mean, salespeople, marketing people, they're all gone, way gone before Christmas Eve hits.
There's no mention of Santa exchange or anything like that, too, or gift exchange.
No, and nobody does that. No. Like it would probably be like an HR issue to try to drag everybody into the office on Christmas Eve.
We get mad at the people because we're still at the station putting on the air, and everybody else is gone. All right.
I do remember at the movie theater for when I worked there forever, the one night it changed, and I don't know where it's at with the pandemic, but the one night a year the movie theater was closed was Christmas Eve.
Yeah, well, even now it's weird though, but restaurants will be open on Christmas Eve, but be closed on Christmas Day night. It's
Christmas Day.
So I don't Christmas Day doesn't make sense because like Denny's will be open during the morning.
You always go to the restaurant.
I know, and they shut down at night.
Who's going to make food for Ted on Christmas?
On Christmas Day, you want to be home in the morning because Santa Claus comes and everything else. Then you can go out at night, and it's just a flip flop at Denny's and other restaurants. So, I mean, I'm just saying, I don't. Well, we had that problem. You and I, we've searched for a restaurant.
We had that problem for years. Yes, Christmas. Okay, one of my big exhibits, especially with the one specific moment you were talking about, I know this is a audio medium, but I want to present my version of Die Hard, which I bought as the 30th anniversary edition. And I don't know if you could see this.
Ooh, but it is. I love that. It's a Christmas sweater design. It's a knitted design on the 30th anniversary Blu-ray cover. I love that design. Cover,
yeah. For those of you listening, it's the cover art to our show notes, but it has yippee-ki-yay, and that part is covered, money, and then it just says ho ho ho.
I want with motherfucker on the sweater. I want that sweater. That looks like a good sweater.
So Bruce Willis's mom are the big proponents I know of that say it isn't a Christmas movie.
His mom?
Yeah, his mom joined her. There's a TMZ article where she contributed. She said Christmas is an essential element of the movie. The quote I saw from Bruce Willis is he says it's a Bruce Willis movie, not a Christmas movie.
Bruce Willis thinks he's bigger than Christmas, and that's a mistake for Bruce Willis.
That is very tenuous logic of, hey, by the way, I'm a movie star. I'm a genre unto myself.
Exactly.
But also going on the record, Stephen E. D'Souza, one of the screenwriters on it, has been saying for years that this is a Christmas movie. His point is that if Die Hard isn't a Christmas movie, then White Christmas is also not a Christmas movie. And then last year, around the same time that Atlantic article came out, John McTiernan spoke with AFI, this AFI series, and gave this really quasi-interesting, quasi-bizarre 12-minute explanation on why Die Hard is a Christmas movie. And he talks about eventually the reasons he wanted to do the movie is he wanted to make a very anti-capitalist Christmas movie. His basis was the Potterville sequence in It's a Wonderful Life, which he thinks is one of the most anti-capitalist or critique of what he's called unregulated cowboy capitalism sequences in movies. And he's like, you got away with that because it's a Christmas movie. And I don't know if I can recommend watching this all the way through. It's 12 minutes. I didn't get all the way through, but there's all this like 6 minutes of art history at the Louvre that he uses as preamble to get into this. And then he justifies one of the weaker parts of the movie, which is all the bureaucrats are obstacles to the story and idiots in all the Die Hard movies, mainly the first two, I guess. But
no, that's actually fair. And I do think, I mean, whether it's a capitalist commentary or not, it's definitely there's a strong, anti-greed theme going on, plus the familial reconciliation. So that does feel, corporate greed, And yeah, I mean, I think familial reconciliation and greed are very common themes in Christmas movies. That does feel resonant.
The closest I've gotten to an explanation of why it isn't a Christmas movie tends to be like it comes from people who have this idea that Christmas movies need to be a nuclear family, just very simple story of a nuclear family celebrating each other for like 2 days, as opposed to like what I think Christmas is for a lot of us, where it's like lights go up after Halloween and it's all about fourth quarter consumer spending.
But there's rom-com Christmas movies too, right? I mean, like that's sort of a subgenre of the Christmas movie. I don't think there's a lot of good examples, but like Scrooged, right? Love Scrooged. That is a decidedly Christmas movie.
Sure.
And not just because it's based on A Christmas Carol, but there's no, there's no family in that. It's really more of a romance and a reconciliation between him and his not greedy, altruistic ex-girlfriend.
Well, I mean, we also now we have to address, if we're going to talk about Christmas movies, it is a huge money-making Hallmark movie genre. I mean, they're making dozens every year now. Christmas movies,
yeah,
which that never. I mean, you used to be able, when I was a kid, you'd count on your hand, 2 hands, like how many Christmas movies there were out there.
Yeah.
And you would, look forward to seeing them around Christmas time. Now, I guess we're going to probably have is there one already, a 24-hour Christmas channel?
I think that they already do that on Hallmark, and you're totally right. This year alone, they did a new Christmas Story movie.
I've seen that.
And now they also did the Santa Clauses. They reinvigorated. I don't know if they reinvigorated, but they brought out they brought the Tim Allen.
Was it vigorated in the first place?
It was not vigorated. I've got love for the first one. Certainly, it stops at the first one.
It's a streaming series, I think. Right?
And we're never going to be able to ever stop the variations and variants of Christmas Carol. We get the Ryan Reynolds, Will Ferrell thing, out this year.
Exactly, Enchanted, or Spirited, rather, yeah.
I think you also mentioned Christmas Story, which that maybe my issue is I don't traditionally like with the movies they show at Christmas, and like the 24-hour Christmas Story. I don't know if they're still doing that, or TBS used to run Christmas Story.
Mm-hmm.
That with my family decided to watch that, I completely checked out.
And then
I have never been into that movie.
And then you got little interesting twists and turns, like It's a Wonderful Life, which bombed, as we all know, bombed at the box office and kind of disappeared. And now it's a perennial Christmas film when it wasn't, anywhere to be seen as a Christmas film for years.
Thank you, public domain.
Yeah, and that's the same with A Christmas Story too. To your point, I mean, that was not a success when it came out, but I think that those movies are kind of like sleepers. And I do think there's plenty to be said about A Christmas Story being overrated, and I think plenty of people feel that way.
Okay,
but I don't think any movie should be looped for 24 hours straight on repeat. Like, that's probably not a standard that any movie can hold up to.
I think it was just, it's become Gene Shepard's writing that it's based on. I think, it was, I think it got a following because it was like, with scenes we hadn't seen in a Christmas film. We hadn't had a Christmas film. Everything was.
Were you into it when it came out?
Oh yeah, I enjoyed it because I was aware. There's actually another story of the lamp, the Christmas lamp, done. PBS did another version of that.
I love that.
And so I kind of got on the Gene Shepard. I go, oh, this is, and I like Darren McGavin, and and then I remember my dad saying stories about how the BB guns and stuff, and so I thought it was really cute. I was kind of a fan of Bob Clark. But yeah, now I'm kind of like backed away from it because everybody's just gone gaga over it and almost smothered it, with this love.
I think the smothering does it, but also I will say I think that there's like a Norman Rockwell kind of Rockwellian like vibe to it that is just something that is captured in that movie. It's kind of like I think about like why people are so obsessed with The Sandlot, for example. It's just like these movies that seem to just kind of capture this vibe.
Good call.
Yeah,
totally.
They might not be that great, but they have things that we really relate to because prior to this, Christmas movies were either like Bing Crosby stuff from the 40s or something, White Christmas, or it was just Christmas Carol, Christmas Carol, Christmas Carol variations, which are really interesting to pursue, but that it was kind of different at the time.
Well, per your Sandlot point, there's a communal thing that comes from like the one movie someone who's not a big film fan decides to watch over and over. Like,
yeah, I was going to say that too because it seems like the list of Christmas movies that you can tell these are general people, these are non-film fanatics that like these films. I was looking because my favorite Christmas Carol. Anytime I hear somebody talk about the Alistair Sim Scrooge, usually they're a film fan. They're film fanatics.
I've heard you talk about it.
Well, and in fact, I was reading where Radio City Music Hall decided not to play the 1952 Alistair Sim film because it was too dark of a Christmas Carol version. They actually put it at a theater. So it's just interesting to see how the list, like Elf, everybody's crazy. Another one that everybody goes goofy over is Elf.
Yeah, no. Real briefly to finish on Christmas Story, reason I have a problem is completely personal. Whenever Ted and I used to write for the same magazine in town and do music reviews, and I gave a local band, not even a bad review, but a tepid review, and they changed their entire press page to. Whenever you entered the press page, there was a MIDI that said "fuck Shane Hazen" whenever you entered it, and they had, and they became they had this thing over and over. I forget how they worked in the songs or at shows. They would make jokes that I looked like Ralphie from Christmas Story. Now, this is my late teens, early 20s, and I used to have big glasses, as you guys remembered. And I got this a lot with not so much Ralphie. That was like a weird one because my hair wasn't blonde.
Are you going to oink like a little piggy, though, on this podcast?
No. It was the same with Harry Potter, where I would do a Pepsi challenge where I'm like, hey, I look like this person. Let me take off these glasses. Do I not look like this person anymore? Interesting. It seems like the glasses is a big component of this.
But that's how Superman Clark Kent work. Oh, no.
You say wearing a Superman shirt and glasses right now. Okay, let's get back to Die Hard real quick. Ted, have you seen the Gordon Douglas, The Detective with Frank Sinatra?
If I've seen it, it's like on TV a long time ago. I got a bunch of Sinatra films like that kind of blurred together, so I can't specifically say I have definitively seen it.
Tyler, there's no way you've seen it, have you?
No, I think it's kind of, it's blurred. It's sort of late period Sinatra, right?
Yes,
I remember,
right.
I'm looking it up. Yeah, 68. I don't know that I did.
It's Gordon Douglas. He did In Like Flint, and I've been wanting to see. He did the Stagecoach remake, amongst others. But he's been since like The Silence.
Yeah, he's been he's a yeoman director. I mean, he's got interesting films, but nothing that really makes you go crazy over.
I did look up a bit about the character of John McClane comes from a character named Joe Leland in these two books that were written by Roderick Thorpe, the detective, and then Die Hard is based off one called Nothing Lasts Forever, which is a sequel 40 years after the detective. And there's a lot of overlapping plot elements, but like from what I read of the synopsis, he kills terrorists one by one. The crazier thing is he's not visiting his wife; he's visiting his estranged daughter, whose name is Gennaro, but his name is Joe Leland. The story came to Thorpe because he fell asleep after having watched Towering Inferno and had a dream of a guy running through a machine gun, supposedly. But Al Powell's, his name is intact. I think I mentioned
Is this the credits? Does it say based on the book, or
it says based on the book? It doesn't say the book. Nothing Lasts Forever. Now I think the WGA makes a point to say if the title is different than the title of the movie.
Yeah. Okay. I was gonna say it's interesting. I thought I would have.
They never use. I mean, it's only, as far as I can tell, it's only 2 books. But the crazier thing is, well, he is barefoot. He is forced to be barefoot. He does take out terrorists one by one, and there is a bunch of cops who aren't helpful, bureaucratic cops that aren't helpful. But at the end of the movie, when Gruber dies, Gruber takes the daughter, Stephanie Gennaro, with him. And he gets embittered and throws money out the window. The book, I think, also has they're trying to steal money, but I think they also are straight leftist terrorists. And the movie, Die Hard, makes a point of quickly, like that's a subversion of we're not political terrorists. We still are only going after money.
Right.
Okay, I'm glad I brought that to a halt.
No, it's fascinating. I'm trying to think of. Usually, I find it fascinating when things are built on their.
This is all taken from Wikipedia, so I mean, I didn't read the book.
Taking it back to the book, was there any sort of holiday element in the book?
Yes, there you go.
Corey, I didn't see anything to Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it sounds like the book was probably, and this is often the case and probably rightly the case, the book was a little bit heavier and more weighty than, maybe.
I forget, but the detective has a tagline of like being a this is a real adult story of police work or something like that.
I mean, and making the Christmas party gives it a plot element that's really convenient for what's going to go down, as opposed to if it was just an average office day.
Yeah, or some kind of.
And I think that era. I mean, this was before the like insane procedural world and decades of thousands of hours of police-related content. I mean, this was coming out of like the era of like, Dragnet, and police work was serious business, and noir stuff. Like I'm sure in the mid-late '60s when that guy, I mean, this was. I'm sure it was not intended as a lighthearted fare that we are now talking about as a quasi-Christmas movie. It's probably quite different.
A new action hero too. They totally, yeah. It's nothing like the detective. I can tell you that.
Okay,
that character.
Ted, I think that whenever I first brought this up to you, you were wanting to talk about, which you mentioned earlier, the step forward.
Yeah. What year is this?
88.
88. So I mean, I just remember being a Bond fan and being an amateur film historian. We now have looked at the trajectory of action films. Bond films set the bar in the '60s and held it for a while. And according to a lot of film people, that this is the big change, that this lifted the bar, and the action hero is, and the contextual elements.
But this was a step forward from Bond?
Yes. So in terms of just the. I guess he's a more working man hero and a more
grounded. But where would you put Raiders in the Lost Ark in that? Because they made the big deal about that's a Bond-esque character but got hurt.
Yeah, that's true.
But nobody gets hurt like John McClane gets hurt. Like you get a working class guy, you can smell the BO coming off of John McClane by the end of this movie. He is bloody and cut up, and he's sweat through his tank top 6 times over. I think that's maybe what it is, and you see a lot of that going into the early 90s, where there is more of this kind of like hardened action hero that's not always coiffed. Like Indy never really is sweating it that much, and Bond certainly not.
I had the movie on right before we started, and one of the things I marveled at is after McClane goes through the vent the first time, how quickly his tank top goes from white to brown. Like,
there's so many continuity issues in this movie. I mean, that's kind of one of the famous things about it too.
And it's just the pacing and the effects and the largeness of it and the quickness of it. It seemed to had an energy. The Bonds were getting lethargic. The Bond films were getting, and they didn't know where to go and and they started copying other genres instead of being the cutting edge. And so this seemed to be where the cutting edge was shifted to when this came out.
And there might have been an American thing here too. You know what I mean? It's like Indy's very quintessentially American, of course, but like this is a relatable working class hero who is just trying to save his wife as he's come here to reconcile with her. And he gets in the way of something so much bigger than him just by sheer grit and determination. And I think that's a decidedly different sort of action archetype.
I think one of the things that helps that point too is the biggest critique of that. The first one is such a great working class character who got hurt and was vulnerable physically. Is the sequels? The sequels progressively get more and more cartoonish.
Yeah.
I watched Die Hard 2 in prep for this too, and I hadn't seen that in years. And
the jet engine kill is like the best kill in this whole series. I love that.
Randy Harlan, where are you now?
Randy, China. If you listen to our red carpet episode,
right?
No, I was gonna. I know Die Hard 2's reputation has been.
It depends on who you talk to, yeah.
Watching it again, it was a crock of shit when I saw it. It was like plot hole after plot hole after like the whole basis of the movie was like we've made it so you can't talk to the planes in the air. By the way, every passenger can get on the phone and call somebody, but
it's also around Christmas or winter at least, right?
No, and to be fair, that one is more distinctly has a Christmas plot that needs to be Christmas because the whole point is the terrorists are screwing up a busy airport during Christmas season.
To bring it back to like just the arc of action films, I'm just looking at Steven D'Souza's 80s.
I wanted to talk to you about Steven D'Souza.
Going from Commando in 85 to The Running Man in 87, which I realize now The Running Man is sort of like his part A of getting to Judge Dredd 7 or 8 years later.
Yeah,
kind of cool.
Okay,
but like he really made a career of running people through the gauntlet. I mean, it was just like these single isolated action heroes. I mean,
that's an issue. The isolated.
He was primed He was primed to write this. I guess I'm saying I didn't quite realize, especially, and I love 48 Hours. Which he did for Walter Hill.
So
6 years.
Going into Sousa's back history, he started out as a writer on $6 Million Man and Bionic Woman. He did 2 episodes of my favorite TV show when I was 5 years old, Knight Rider. But he came on to do the production rewrite of 48 Hours, which was edited by all 3 of ours mutual friend and Midnight Run editor Billy Weber, who's on. We did a Midnight Run episode with him. But,
love it.
Yeah, and also if you want to go later into his career, when he did his he's directed a TV movie, but where do you have an opinion on Street Fighter, Tyler?
I have a nostalgic warm spot for Street Fighter.
Okay,
but I haven't seen it in years, and
I haven't seen it since it came out. Apparently its reputation has gone up a little. I remember thinking, even at the time, as a stupid. If you're interested, Polygon has a really, really long read about the making of that kind of describes where Capcom he was. But the best part of the movie, as from day one, since I saw it, is it's Raul Julia's last role, and Raul Julia plays a megalomaniacal M. Bison. Like, it's a very, very interesting take. The thing about the script is it's just such a piece of clockwork precision to me.
Right. It also it's funny. I have a guy in my writing group who's a great action writer, and we've talked a lot about like sort of blocking and logistics being so. And then Shane, we did that one on To the White Sea, which is such a weird thing to bring into this conversation, but it also is an isolated protagonist moving through an incredibly threatening. There's a singularness to it that kind of is like this, and I think John getting from the bottom of the building to the top of the building, and this sort of funhouse that he's stuck in. I mean, it's so simple structurally. I think that's what works about it. And then I think, like we're saying about these themes of reconciliation and greed, just make it human and relatable. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think more and more in what I see in writing is the stuff that I'm impressed by is always somehow decidedly simple. And this movie is really basic in a lot of ways, but it just works.
One of the things that hit me in Die Hard 2 is how it really makes Die Hard 1 look very simple. I mean, and a lot of everyone was taking the formula of Die Hard. It was like, get someone trapped in a small space with terrorists.
Well, and then why it gets good when it goes to Die Hard with a Vengeance, and that's so much better than 2, is that they just kind of got rid of all of that. They added the cat and mouse game, and they made it much bigger, obviously, in scope. But it's like, the simplicity serves you, especially in an action movie. And there's so many bad examples of action movies that get so convoluted that you couldn't even explain the plot at the end because it's just a big can of worms.
Well, Die Hard 2 especially, it seems like it takes this, if you want to try to formalize the Die Hard 1, Die Hard 2 takes it to its limit. And then I think the story I always heard with Die Hard with a Vengeance was it's like it's Jonathan Hensley, I think, did the script for that, and he was the main credited writer, but it was one of those examples of it was a completely different spec script, and they rewrote it for John McClane.
That makes sense, actually.
And then you write the Jeremy Irons character's relation to Hans Gruber in the first one. That's the story I always heard from it, but
that makes sense. I mean, there is nothing about it in that cat and mouse game that has anything to do with what Hans is doing in the first one. But that's why the first one's just, again, I think that there's certain things you can only do one time, and this movie's been attempted to be, repeated and regurgitated 10,000 times, but it's still just the OG because it's elegantly simple.
We're both saying good things about the script, but it sounds like I have this script at a much higher level because I'm putting this as one of the best scripts of all, like best Hollywood's action scripts of all time.
You know, you might have it at a higher level than I do. I think the script does get a ton of love. I think that Alan Rickman and Bruce Willis get a lot of credit, and I think there's some amazing one-liners in this movie that are just totally undeniable. And I think that there is, again, a beautiful simplicity to the structure of it. But I just don't know if on the page, I think it's way up there, and I think to Ted's point, it sort of ushered in maybe a new era in action movies, and that's why it kind of gets a lot of that credit, because I think 90s action movies, a lot of them owe a lot of credit to what Die Hard kind of ushered in. But yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, I think the other, like, there's a lot of people working at the top of their game, and there's a lot of serendipity. Like, I mean, this is Alan Rickman's first screen role, isn't it?
Is that right?
First
Yeah.
debut?
Yeah.
I'd have to check that out. That's hard to believe. I mean, just because British actors, even though a lot of times they're theater heavy in the beginning, they start. Judi Dench goes back to the '60s in movies. If you look at it, so I'm thinking Alan must have popped up in one or two films. But I mean, it's his first debut that put him on the radar, on the map, of course.
No, you know what, Shane? You're right. He had been basically in, it looks like, quite a bit of British TV.
Yeah.
It's his first screen role.
British TV credits and like BBC Shakespeare specials and stuff like that. But yeah, this was his first movie and first American credit.
Wow.
Pretty wild.
Wow.
Yeah. That is the serendipity of, like, that's a pretty, like, I had always heard it as his first, and it's like, that's a pretty damn good debut.
I would be more effusive of Alan Rickman in Die Hard than I would of the script for Die Hard. I think Alan Rickman in Die Hard is ridiculously good. I think he's one of the best villains of all time.
Well, McTiernan's also coming off of Predator, and I think he goes on to Hunt for Red October after this, and he's giving.
Well, that's the weird thing between McTiernan and Souza. They're all coming off of these Arnold movies.
Yeah,
they came off of like Arnold for 4 years.
That's what I was thinking when you mentioned Commando. I mean, and McTiernan also has like everything he's done is a very grounded. It's workman, but it's also he's got that very distinct anamorphic flair thing. But he's medium. He doesn't really do a lot of shot reverse shot. Like it's always these like kind of like tight master shots, and everything comes out and like there's a connectivity and flow between them that's just really well directed.
Well, this is a period where I'm feeling McTiernan is the go-to director to making a blockbuster really cool and not stodgy. He brought a little bit of a flair to the big blockbuster action films that you just you kind of but I go back to like we mentioned Tower Inferno. You got tons of stars in Tower Inferno, but the thing's a little stodgy, and McTiernan had a way to you're not embarrassed to like his films. So in many ways, so that's I don't know, but it's too bad he didn't maintain that. And of course, he had that big problem later on, did he?
Yeah.
So.
No, I love that you're saying stodgy. There's something about his films that are just cool.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, and they're big Hollywood films, and usually, we're going, we're big Hollywood films, we don't like them, but no, these are fun, and they move right along, and you're not, like I said, you're not embarrassed to say, yeah, that's a damn good film. So.
Yeah.
And he also, again, back to the D'Souza thing, like there's something about like, and I love Walter Hill, and I do think that there's something about like, McTiernan's like classic tough guy filmmaker kind of, you know what I mean? Where there's just sort of this like, there's no pretense to this movie at all. And that's part of what's charming about it. And Hans is almost a little pretentious. That's kind of why you want to see him thrown out a window at the end of this thing, because it's like, I don't like the accent and the way you guys are dressed and all this fancy long hair that these gunmen have and stuff. I'm here to just kill all of you guys.
Hans Bubala.
Yeah, exactly. That. Oh my God! And the cocaine executive. Yeah, that guy needed to die horribly.
You two, I'm surprised you guys haven't jumped into the Walter Hill.
Well, no. But I mean, what he said about Walter Hill, I mean, boy, that's a whole other episode, because I mean. With
that's not just one episode.
Well, yeah, with me, I'll
with you, no.
But I mean, Walter's films seem to be, a lot of them have flaws that he doesn't overcome. That's one reason I watch him again and again, because I'm working them out and seeing what he's trying to do. Whereas McTiernan's just as smooth as milk. I mean, it goes down really easy. With Hill, there's some trouble. There's some problems sometimes with him, but
some intentional dirtiness kind of to the.
Yeah, or you want this to work so well because all the our elements are really really cool, and he's got such an interesting style, but some reason it doesn't gel as smoothly, unfortunately. And I'm not sure why. We sit there and start analyzing them all, but we're not.
I totally agree with that. I think that's actually, I think that's right, but I think that there's something about the non-fussiness of it, and there is some clunkiness that might come along with that,
Right.
that is endearing somehow. And he is such a good writer too, that like he's working on a very solid foundation, even if he's not maybe quite as smooth as McTiernan in a couple of these titles.
Well, one of the things I would say about the Souza is, I mean, it really hit me watching Die Hard 2 just because you can tell there's a lot of the same fingerprints. Like, it just seems like there's not a lot of the, like, need to, like, ground this in either logic or just ground it in general that Rennie Harlin's probably given. And it goes back to the conversation you and I have had multiple times, Tyler, about screenwriters just don't have the power to be their own author. Like, they are working for the director most of the time. Because, like, one movie I rewatched a few years ago, Souza and Bruce Willis, that I think is massively underrated, and at the time got a terrible reaction, was Hudson Hawk. Like, I think that's a pretty solidly good movie.
Yeah. Okay.
I am painfully alone in this.
No. I need to watch it again. It's been so.
I need to watch it again. I was never a big fan, though.
It is Daniel Waters and Michael Lehman's follow-up to Heathers, amongst other things. The Souza's also on it.
and I any movie that has James Coburn in it, and it uses the little tone from The President Calling.
Oh, the Ian like Flint one.
The
Austin Powers do that too.
I remember walking out going, "Well, that was an interesting film." I didn't dismiss it, but like most people did.
I think it was one of those movies that was way too collectively shit on when it came out, and is just it's way more clever and smarter than you think it is.
So many of those films back then just had such huge expectations on them, and they just died because there's no way it was going to live up to what was expected of them, and then now everybody's rediscovering them.
That Polygon article I was telling you about Street Fighter 2, like that. I mean, that's a movie he's directing, and he talks about how like one by one he makes one concession after another to, not that Street Fighter was going to come out great, but I mean it was better than it deserved, at least based on so.
It's got its cult status.
Last story I want to talk about the Souza's achievement. I mean, Die Hard is a movie that is taught in screenwriting classes a lot, though.
100%. I'm not despairing. I was not saying any disparaging words about the script. It's phenomenal, but I do think that there is a simplicity to it that is the reason it's taught in screenwriting classes, because it maps on to most modern, schools of thought around screenwriting. It's very easy to break down structurally, and so it makes a good use case.
Well, to that point, I was going to bring up, I have a friend that taught, like, I'm not exactly sure what type of screenwriting class he was teaching, but he taught Die Hard for years. And we were at a party one night, and he admitted, or actually gleefully admitted, he's never seen Die Hard, and he's been teaching in a screenwriting class for years.
I don't want to hear that. Ugh.
I know that feels wrong somehow.
Yeah, very wrong.
I don't know how he did it. I don't know how he
really
did it.
I think that that's really what it is, though, and why somebody could say something like that is I could do like a Sid Field breakdown on that thing in like 5 seconds, because it's just a singular protagonist. His want is so crystal clear from the second you meet him. He's got this giant teddy bear that he's coming to make a reconciliation with. And it turns out to be a little bit harder for him to reconcile with his wife. But that's exactly what he does by the end of it, and it's just clean.
The reason I jumped to the Clockwork Precision was that I cannot for the life of me remember who made this critique. I thought it was David Foster Wallace, but David Foster Wallace is a fan of Die Hard. And I thought it was Roger Ebert, but it wasn't him. Someone made a point that there was something about a ruthless efficiency, that this movie has no breathing and no air into it every moment. And that became like a mechanical way of making action movies. Someone critiqued this from that vantage point.
Yeah, I mean, it probably plays into the shift in the action film genre too, because of that.
Well, and Ted might know, you might have a different view or a better view of this historically. Like, I don't know how many action movies there were Deliverance isn't a straight action movie, but I'm thinking about the real time nature of this movie. It's almost unfolding in real time, a large chunk of it. And I think that urgency, you see a lot of Bond movies, and you don't know how many weeks or months these that we're traveling all over the world and we're jumping between set pieces. Right. And Indiana Jones works that way very much too. But then you come into the 90s, and there was sort of the birth of like the real time thriller, and there's really good and bad examples of that. But that might be part of it too.
Yeah, sure. I mean, that urgency that adds to the quickness and urgency and the anxiousness that you feel, the tension that you don't get, when he's Bond's just globe hopping, and it's like the tension's kind of missing already, and he has everything at his disposal, and the special guns and the planes, and he's got the whole Bond the British intelligence behind him, whereas McClane has nothing.
and that's there's a funny Shane. I'm just saying there's a funny comparison between like Bond and John McClane. There is no comparison, but the way they speak to each other, there's John McClane doesn't like fanciness, and we are working class fans of John McClane kicking the ass of these European, well-dressed, greedy bastards. Like there's a part of that is like it's kind of an anti-Bond action hero. I mean, he's kind of represents everything that Bond doesn't. It's almost like there's something just so quintessentially American about it. And I feel like that's maybe why it's become this part of the canon in the way we talk about it.
I mean, I buy the Americanness. The critique I want to ask you guys about is I have seen Live Free, Die Hard, I think is the fourth one. Or Live Long, Die Hard.
I have too. Is that the one with Justin Long?
Yeah.
Kevin Smith shows up in it.
And Kevin Smith shows up very conveniently to be like an IT hacker whiz.
Oh, yeah. I'm so glad their relationship stayed strong.
See, it started going to a Bond direction there.
That's my point. And did you guys see A Good Day to Die Hard, which I have not seen?
The last one, yeah.
The one in Russia.
I sat through it. It was just like sitting through it. Just like strap me in and I'll get through it. But it was not that.
I lost it at the end of the fourth one when John McClane was flying a jet.
Yeah. Well, here's a hot take. I actually think that the movie Logan, which I enjoy quite a bit, is more in the spirit of Die Hard 1 than the last several Die Hard movies.
I could totally get behind that.
Because it's about feeling the violence. There's certain filmmakers now. I'm thinking of what's his name that does like Riot on Cell Block 99.
Craig Zoller, Craig Zoller.
Craig Zoller, right? Like it's almost been brought to a new level now, but like where there isn't this kind of fanciness to violence. It's just this brutal, hard-hitting, bone-crushing thing. And I feel like those movies owe something to Die Hard, because really you watch John McClane stuck in this fucking AC unit, just bleeding and bruised and so sweaty and uncomfortable. It's like, this isn't just cool. We don't just have cool toys. I'm not like Batman or James Bond, and I'm just going to like carabiner out of here easily. It's hard. It's difficult.
The comic book story that Logan's based off is called Old Man Logan, and the original pitch for that was Wolverine in Unforgiven.
Oh, there you go. Perfect. Exactly. And in Unforgiven, that's great too, because you feel his age and you feel time in that movie. And I feel like there's something, obviously John McClane is not completely contained by reality because he's got magazines in his Glock that have 47 rounds in them apparently, or something insane.
Okay.
Like he just keeps shooting the gun and it just keeps shooting people.
Yeah, I'm now you got me thinking a lot of here, because like with the he felt the sweat, dirt, and the really pain, and we started getting that with Peckinpah. And then Sam, but Sam couldn't keep he couldn't keep off the drinking and the drugs, and he just diminished as he went along. We might have had, it might have been a different level if Sam had maintained his chops.
Oh, absolutely.
But so McTiernan is bringing that back in some ways, and then I'm thinking, where are the Hong Kong films at this time? John Woo. I had maybe
The Killer's probably out by this point.
I'm thinking, we forget. I think some of these guys saw these Asian films way before we saw them. I think Carpenter did too, and and they started infusing the Hong Kong action that we would eventually see once they started, importing them over here. But
that's a great point. A Better Tomorrow came out in 86. A Better Tomorrow
There you go.
2, 87, and The Killer was 89.
And when you said
okay, I was off.
and when you said the guns go off with big giant magazines, I'm thinking of the Hong Kong Asian films.
Oh,
where they're just shooting forever, and there's no limitation on their guns.
Yeah, but I mean, this is also stylized gunplay, whereas isn't the conversation about them getting more grounded and sweaty? And is that not necessarily
they're just shooting elements of it. I think, but McTiernan and Souza, a very American way of doing it, as opposed to, because I loved in Big Trouble Little China. Where I go way off subject.
We talked about this on the Carpenter episode,
but where he in order to do the really crazy fighting, they're taking magic potions. That's the Americanized version. We can't.
Right.
The American audience can't believe they can't swallow that, just to see them do that without any reason, and so they give them a reason. They give them a potion. So the McTiernan the Die Hard thing is, let's bring it down, but we're still going to have this kind of gun fu play, going on.
That's what I mean. Is I was citing that as like the gun fu play part of it is sort of the one exception to that rule. But I love the peck and paw thing, and I think you're right that McTiernan and guys like Walter Hill certainly owe a lot to peck and paw. I mean, there was a dirtiness and a griminess and a violence that.
And of course, Sam's thinking he's an artist and he's going to use it, be poetic and be much more heavy duty contextual wise. Whereas McTiernan said, hey, we're going to have fun with this. He's not. I don't think he has the axe to grind that peck and paw did.
No, in this movie, like we were saying, even compared to the book, which I haven't read, but I mean, this is a movie that is for everybody and is a whole barrel of fun. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I mean, its themes are very clear, but it's not preoccupied with them. It knows what it's here to do.
I really came to this movie whenever they would play it over and over on TV, and there's a lot of movies in the last few years I have started to watch down too much. I'll put it on, rewatch it, and like drain my joy out of it. I had this on beforehand. I want to go back and finish it up. Like I can always keep watching this movie.
I think one year I think I went to every TCM Fathom event movie that year, and I think Die Hard was one of them not too long ago. And I couldn't believe how much of a blast I had watching this. I mean, it's one of those films where you hardly have a flaw with it in some ways.
I think going back to your Bond point though, Ted, I wanted to whenever we talk about action movies supplanting Bond, I do tend to go towards espionage movies with that because I always remember the Bourne movies being the one that was talked about. And
that was the next step.
No, totally. And then, but I don't see Die Hard as necessary. I don't know necessarily building block because like right now.
The espionage element is a terrorist. I mean, sort of. A world. There's kind of that world feel of espionage usually incorporates.
Okay.
That world of the global aspect of it, and all of a sudden you have these terrorists. Here in America and California. So that's, I mean, I'm really stretching.
No. That makes sense.
But I mean, they're suit and tie. They're kind of. I mean, this is a group of villains you might have expected to see in a Bond come across at one point, maybe.
I agree. I totally agree with that. Also, the other thing I don't want to pivot here, but something that we haven't talked about in terms of when you're talking about the watchability of this movie and why it feels so flawless. I think Michael Kamen, the composer, gets a call out on this, and I was just because I remember the score for this movie like very, very vividly, and it's so big and in your face and smashing you, like it's so clear.
Yeah.
And I'm looking up I was like, what was he doing right around this time? The son of a bitch did Lethal Weapon the year before this. It's like that's crazy. And
I remember,
and he'd done 4 Bond movies by that time too.
He did Bond movies. Michael Kamen did?
Yeah, he did License to Kill.
Yeah.
Oh my God. He did Brazil too. As the one I remember him.
And he did Brazil. Yeah, I mean, amazing. I mean, yeah.
I remember shitting on Michael Kamen for years because I remember when the first X-Men came out, he did that, and that was that period where like.
Well, the man did it.
We wanted a big theme, We wanted a big X-Men theme, music theme. It was coming off Superman and Batman being like, that's what we wanted in movie music, but. Ted, you've been chomping to talk about your favorite Christmas movies?
No. I've already mentioned it basically. Is Alistair Sim? I thought we might sneak in plugs for our favorite Christmas films since we're talking about whether this is a Christmas film. I mean, is this your favorite Christmas film, Shane?
I don't really have favorite Christmas films because things like a Christmas movie to me is a Christmas story. Maybe that's why I think this debate is ridiculous.
Do you have a tradition though of watching something? Because I know I have a lot of friends that they gotta get these films out and watch them every year at Christmas time.
I don't. To me, I am totally down for Shane Black movies being Christmas movies.
Okay.
I'm here for that. I admittedly, and you know what's so funny? Not to get into it, but now that I just saw that, Lethal Weapon came out 87. This came out 88. Lethal Weapon, not a Christmas movie set at Christmas,
Right.
as is Die Hard. That's weird. I never realized how quickly those.
Well,
were
I thought Shane Black's whole shtick was he had to
say-
write in Christmas on everything.
And how about this? The best Bond film is set around Christmas time. In my regard, on Her Majesty's Secret Service.
Oh yeah, you're right.
They have a Christmas.
That's the only Bond film I know that's set at Christmas.
Yeah, they even have a Christmas song on the soundtrack.
That's so funny.
That was written.
I will say it's the most uninteresting, unoriginal answer, but I tend to get a little bit weepy to "It's a Wonderful Life" every Christmas. I think I've maybe missed a couple years, but I think it's the OG.
I think it's been 10 years since I've seen it, but I remember my last viewing of it. The two things I was like, I didn't realize how long and epic it is, and how, I think a lot of people pointed it out. It is a surprisingly dark movie.
It's really dark, and it is epic. It goes on for 20 years. It covers the massive period of his life.
And I'll again plug the 52 or 50. It's not 51, 52 Scrooge, which it's a very dark take on Christmas Carol with Alistair Sim, and I very almost film noirish. Looking for a UK film. There was a 1971. Richard Williams, the great animator, Roger Rabbit animator, he did a 30-minute version with Chuck Jones producing. They got Alistair Sim to come back to voice it, and Michael Hordon to voice Marley, and it's beautiful. It won an Oscar for a short.
Chuck
film.
Jones produced it?
Yes.
Wow, I'm looking up stills from it. This looks
they use zooms and ink, and then they based the artwork on the original Carol books of the time, and Richard Williams just goes to town on this thing. It's just amazing. I saw it as a kid, and when it aired on 71. This is before they had a rule on short films. That's why he got an Oscar.
Oh,
but they had to change the rules because of that. But it's just an amazing version, and to get Alistair Sim to come back and Michael Hordon and Michael Redgrave does the narration, it's just a wonderful. It needs to be on Blu-ray so bad.
Is it on YouTube? Do you know?
Yeah, you can find it on YouTube, I think. In fact,
I'm going to watch that. That's a great rec. I'm going to watch that this year.
And then I have to admit, one other thing is, I embarrass myself, but I've been suckered into watching Love Actually around Christmas time.
So one of the points I was going to make.
Well, actually, so
the person that's credited with having the strongest views or startiness in that Atlantic article that this isn't a Christmas movie was Katie. I misread her last name, but it was a BuzzFeed article called "Stop Saying Die Hard is Your Favorite Christmas Movie," and she makes the point that it's not even the best Christmas movie with Alan Rickman, because Love Actually is.
Oh,
yeah,
interesting. Okay, earlier on, Tyler, you said it says about you like the Christmas genre or making films Christmas-ish.
Yeah.
So this is a list I came across here on the website. The Silent Partner.
Have you seen that, Elliot Gould?
And Christopher Plummer.
I forgot that. There's a Santa costume.
I vaguely remember that.
He's in a Santa Claus outfit.
Yeah.
Okay, you need to watch that at some point. They got Goodfellas on here.
Okay.
Is there?
Sure, it's got that. People die at Christmas and that, but yeah.
The Godfather. Because I guess
no, because they're Christmas shopping,
shopping
and they're watching.
Yeah, that New York, that Manhattan sequence is one of the best sequences in the whole thing. I love that.
And then there's On Master Service, The Fearless Vampire Killers.
I do not remember Christmas being in that.
But it's in snow. I don't know. I guess it's. Is it? We'll have to.
I haven't seen it in forever.
How about The Thing?
I didn't know that was a Christmas movie.
Is it taking place at Christmas?
I think it does actually. I think there's maybe it takes place over a period of time, but I think that there might be some nod to it. Yeah.
Eyes Wide Shut.
We did an Eyes Wide Shut Christmas episode already. Yeah.
The Great Silence. It's a spaghetti western.
I have seen it. I don't remember it being Christmas based too. Because a lot of these movies have snow.
The Hateful Eight. See, there's
sure.
Day of the Outlaw, which I have not seen.
I have not seen that.
The Apartment.
I think of The Apartment as a New Year's movie. That was a New Year's Eve tradition for me.
Okay, Gremlins.
Yes.
Gremlins for sure.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Trading Places.
Ooh, I could kind of see that. Yeah.
The Irishman.
That is a long period of time that movie takes place over.
So I guess there's a Christmas sequence in it. Catch Me If You Can.
Kind of.
I love that Christmas. Well, that's a very sad Christmas sequence, but I like that Christmas.
Armicord.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I'm gonna mispronounce this. Noti Bianche.
I'm not
Is that Antonioni? I'm not sure. I have to look it up.
Antonioni does a Christmas
Well,
movie.
yeah, that would be very interesting. We'll have to look it up. It's Nottibianche.
And then Stalag 17 is your last one.
And Stalag 17. And then somebody else I came across of The Shining. This is his favorite Christmas film. Yeah. So.
Well, now we're getting to that period.
Yeah, that's getting. I mean,
that's pushing it.
Yeah.
This is fuel for the people that don't want to say Die Hard, or Die Hard is a contrarian Christmas movie, or a movie for people who don't like traditional Christmas movies.
Yeah, I just came across that doing a little bit of homework before we started this.
My last thing I wanted to get off my yellow legal pad of writing. There was a blog I came across by a guy named Stephen Fellows. He did a bunch of data that proves to him that it's a Christmas movie. He found that amongst IMDb user lists of favorite Christmas movies, it's the 22nd on the most lists of favorite Christmas movies on IMDb. But he also examined the script, and I'm not sure which draft he did, but he's found that the word Christmas was in there 18 times, as opposed to the word explode was in there 4 times, the word die was in there 5 times, the word hard was in there 11 times, the word shoot 12 times, the word kill 13, the word blood 13 too. So all those words are less than Christmas was in the script.
I love the idea, and I think that to bring it home as we're wrapping things up is like it is an argument for argument's sake, and that's what's fun about the conversation. Is it's like the idea of using data to try to prove a Christmas movie is a Christmas movie. It's like, do you like watching it at Christmas? Does it give you a sort of nostalgic Christmas feeling to it? To me, that qualifies it, especially when you add that to some of the thematic stuff that is pretty meat and potato Christmas stuff with greed and reconciliation.
Yeah.
So, and Christmas colored red. There's blood all over this movie constantly. There's like 16 Christmas songs on the soundtrack.
There's so many Christmas songs in this movie. I guess my last question to you guys is, what are your favorite Die Hard parodies?
Wow.
This season of Rick and Morty had a whole B story episode about Die Hard, the genre being a religion, and the main character Summer that had to deal with it was a 17-year-old girl, and they're like, "You've never seen Die Hard?" And she had to commit to it being John McClane without ever seen Die Hard, and so she started shooting a gun. She started saying Die Hard, Die Hard, Die Hard, Die Hard over and over.
Am I recalling correctly? If there's a Homer, I have a vision of Homer Simpson playing, being
Simpsons had to have done multiple ones.
Yeah, probably. Maybe I don't know. I don't know. You caught me off guard there.
I'm sorry, guys.
No.
I had planned answers, and I just completely threw you guys.
I know. I'm bad with that. I don't. It's like, and it's so baked into the
so
culture.
Baked
like
in.
There must be 1,000. There must be 1,000, but I'm blanking on that.
My other one written down, planned in advance, was the Ben Stiller show does Die Hard 12. Die Hungry.
I do remember that.
It's Die Hard in a supermarket, and at one point the terrorist goes, "Your coincidental appearance at every terrorist attack on Christmas Eve grows tiresome, Mr. Bad Boy." And then Ben Stiller playing Bruce Willis goes, "Yabba dabba doo, yabba dibba dabba dibba."
That's the part I remember, is him like hiding in the cereal aisle or whatever with the like teasing them. I totally remember that from back in college.
And the joke was that he's running out of one-liners, so like he takes a stack of toothpicks and then takes a bunch of straws and spits them at a terrorist and then gets them all over his face. And he's like, he's also running out of one-liners. And the tension is him trying to think of something. And he's like, yeah, try to pick on somebody else. Yeah, nailed it.
Okay.
There's no greater flattery than when Ben Stiller wants to parody you. I think that's just further evidence that it's part of the canon.
Yeah, and there's nothing much better than content than having someone else describe someone do a cool, funny parody. I'm glad I took up this time.
I think maybe he's going to say something about Pinhead. He's a Pinhead. He looked like a Pinhead.
Ted, did you have more?
I will write it off so you just see if there's something we need to. The basic narrative situation of Die Hard is a man returning to his family for Christmas. Number 2, his wife is called Holly.
There you go. That's one we missed.
Number 3, it takes place on Christmas Eve, not Thanksgiving or the 4th of July. It could have been set any week of the year, but wasn't. Number 4, the chief villain, Hans Gruber, explicitly invokes the Christmas spirit. It's Christmas, Theo. It's a time for miracles. 5, Gruber is a classic bad capitalist villain. He is to steal money, just as the old man Potter does in A Wonderful Life. The soundtrack features Christmas tunes, new and old. Run DMC's Christmas in Hollis, and Frank Sinatra's rendition of Let It Snow. Santa Claus makes an appearance in the form of a dead terrorist. The film ends with the character of a limo driver, Argyle, looking forward to New Year's Eve. That's what this guy listed.
The deck is stacked for Christmas. I have not heard a really good argument for it not being a Christmas movie.
Yeah,
I know. Even when you're trying to find a good argument, it's not easy to find.
I think I'm in the place. I'm neutral really about it. I enjoy seeing the argument happen. It's just fun to watch everybody just get.
I'm getting to it's now turning into a Twitter argument. So now I'm like the rest of America in 2022 are like, do we need to argue anymore, people? Do we need to argue about? And if we do, can't we argue about things that matter?
Yeah.
Well, I think it was good that we joined a debate that decidedly doesn't matter. It made me feel very festive before the holidays.
Good way to get into Christmas. All right, well, thank you guys for doing this.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas. Now I have machine gun.
Yippee-ki-yay.
Thanks, Tyler.